Hello and welcome to Jazz Guitar Chord Melody, Part 14. Hi, this is Mike Hayes, and just a quick reminder before we get started. If this is the first video you've seen in this series, there's a link in the description below to all the previous Jazz Guitar Chord Melody videos. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you'll be notified just as soon as the latest video is available. In this session, we'll be working on another chord melody arrangement, and in particular, we'll be talking about how to plan an arrangement. And I'd like to start today's session with a quote from Lester Young. Originality is the thing. You can have tone and technique, but without originality, you ain't really nowhere. And I'd have to agree with Lester. So today, we're going to look at various ways to move away from and free ourselves from the traditional guitar thinking. We're going to look at ways of thinking outside the box. So we're going to approach chord melody on guitar in the same way that an arranger would write for an ensemble. Before we get to work on our arrangement, let's take a moment to pick up a few tips from a very successful musician, composer and arranger. And I'm speaking about Lalo Schifrin. He is probably best known for his large body of film and TV scores. I'm sure you know his famous Mission Impossible theme. Lalo's one of those few musicians who's been able to walk that fine line between classical and jazz, and do it well. As a young man, he studied classical music, and in the 1960s, he was on tour in Dizzy Gillespie's band. In Dizzy's band, he played with the greatest musicians of that era, from John Coltrane to Stan Getz. His father introduced him to opera when he was a child. Schifrin says, "I like opera, and I was fascinated by the idea of dramatic story that developed with music." Now there's the takeaway for us there, the idea of dramatic story that develops with music. So that goes back to the idea of storytelling. Our arrangement should tell a story. And by studying these musical scores of Verdi, Puccini, Bizet and so on, he was able to develop a way of writing where the melody was always clear. And so that's the other key point for us when we're writing an arrangement for the guitar. While our arrangement should be a study in variety and contrast, we should always let the music speak. The melody must always be clear to the listener. Each melody has its own particular unique character, and Deck the Hall has certainly a different character than our last piece that we worked on, the Ode to Joy. So here is a typical lead sheet arrangement of Deck the Hall. Our first project is to identify the form of the music. And if we have a close look, we'll see it's our familiar AABA song form, the same song structure as Ode to Joy. Now that we know the song form, the next step is to identify the vanilla changes. Now I'm calling this process the vanilla changes. You might know this process by another name. You might know it as functional harmony. And functional harmony is a theory of tonal music that regards all harmonies as functioning as essentially tonic, dominant, or subdominant harmony. So whether you call it vanilla changes or functional harmony, it means the same thing. We're stripping all the chords back from the sheet music back to the essential 1, 4, or 5 chords. And so here's how our melody would look with the vanilla chord changes. And remember why we're doing this. We're stripping the harmonies from the original sheet music. We're stripping them back so we can add our own harmonies. Let's have a listen to the first 4 bars. That would be A1. Now let's have a listen to the first 8 bars. That would be A1 and A2. of the B section. And now A3. This starts out exactly the same as A1 and A2, but there's a variation of the melody in bars 3 and 4. Back to A1, and looking at the melody in the first two bars, I can see it's that scale-like melody that we spoke about that really suits the major sixth diminished scale. So I'm going to apply that principle to the melody for the first two bars. So I'll be placing under the D note, I'll be playing a G6. Under the C, I'll be playing a C diminished. Under the B note, I'll be playing a G6. And under the A note, the last note in the first bar, I'll be playing an A diminished. In the second bar, I'll be playing G6 under the G note, A diminished under the A note. Under the B melody note, I'll be playing a G6, and under the G note, the last note in bar 2, I'll be playing a G6 chord. In the next two bars of the A section, that's bars 3 and 4, the melody moves quite quickly, and it would be very cumbersome to continue our harmonization of the melody using the G6 diminished scale. It can be done, but remember we said earlier on in this video that we want to keep the melody very clear to the listener. So we'll use a different treatment on these two bars. For the moment, let's just go to A2, that's the second line of the melody. Because it's the same melody repeated, I'm going to use passing chords here. Whereas in the first two bars of A1, I use the G6 diminished approach. Down here, the melody's the same, but we're going to change the harmony underneath it. So this time, under the D note, I'm going to play B minor 7. Under the C note, I'll play A minor 7. Under the B note, I'm going to play G major 7th. Under the A note, I'll be playing F sharp half diminished. Into the second bar, under the G note, I'll be playing E minor 7. Onto the A note, where I'll be playing an F sharp half diminished under the A. Then I'll play a G major 7th under the B note, and then an E minor 7 under the G note. Let's have a listen. Right then, what we're trying to do is to create some variety and contrast in our arrangement. We have the same melody in the first two bars in A1 and A2, and we're just trying to create an element of surprise and interest and development with the arrangement. Let's go back to the first two bars in line 1, and in bars 3 and 4, I'm just going to play a single note melody. I'm doing this now to try and connect our ideas and see how the arrangement's coming together. The first two bars will be harmonization from the G6 diminished scale. Then we'll have two bars of single note melody. Let's have a listen. When you're working out your arrangement, it's like a little musical workshop. We're trying ideas, and we have to sometimes go back to the very beginning to get the proper perspective to see how things are shaping up, remembering that everything that you play affects everything else that's coming up. Let's have a listen to A2 with the passing chords for the first two bars and then the single note melody in bars 3 and 4. Okay, you can hear we're starting to develop some ideas here. Remember, it's your ideas that are important. I'm just walking you through a process that you can use, if you like, as a framework. Before we finish this session, I'm just going to give you an idea of where all this is going. So I'm going to play the first 8 bars with some new ideas that we'll be working on in the next video. I hope you've got something out of this session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, don't forget to leave them in the comments section below the video. I look forward to catching up with you again next time. Bye for now.